So how about this now? The Cardinals are a half game out of the second wild card. The Reds have that second wild card after being idle, and you have the Padres. The Padres cannot win a baseball game. And we mentioned yesterday their schedule is brutal moving forward. Now, maybe the only good thing going for them is I saw that the Giants were partying. The Giants clinched their playoff spot. So you got to think after the clinch.
That's right.
There's a lot of drinking going on in the clubhouse, on the field, and maybe potentially even afterwards. So maybe the Padres can only win a game because the Giants players will be drunk, or they'll play that day after the clinch lineup, which is
the best.
Just kind of all your random dudes.
Let's see. Third string catcher, you're going tonight. Who hasn't played in about a week? You're all playing tonight. We might even have a pitcher in the backside of the bullpen be a position player today, just because everybody else is going to recuperate from last night. That's
where you have Gabe Kapler, and he goes, all right, guys, let's be real. Tell me how much you drank last night and tell me when you went to bed, and that's how I'm going to determine today's starting lineup.
There's a lot of truth in that, too. I mean,
it does usually happen that way, honestly, though.
I mean, somebody's going to go in and go, hey, Brandon's, you can't play him tonight. He was hammered last night. You gotta give him the day off.
He put his jersey on backwards, actually.
Yeah, maybe two.
Okay,
unfortunately, the young guys would be the ones partying the most,
But they can also bounce back quicker, right? If you're a 23-year-old.
Well, and then there's the other side of the story. You got a rookie, and you go, the manager comes in, tough luck, kid. You're a rookie. You got to play tonight.
Suit up,
everybody else sits.
Well, suck it up then.
Yep.
We all did it, baby. Suck it up. Go play whatever you need to do. You got to bring it. Actually, it's less pressure that way, I think. If you're in that situation, just go do your thing. You hope all the older guys get wasted so they don't play, so you could step up and show your game.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, man.
So right now, second wild card, Reds are in that spot. And, of course, the first wild card, still Dodgers, far and away. I mean, 16.5 games better even than the Reds, but that's the way it works this season. So San Diego and the Cardinals now tied, both with records of 74 and 69, a half game out of that second wild card spot. The difference is you have two teams trending in totally opposite directions. The Cardinals have won 3 straight. As we mentioned, San Diego, they've lost 4 in a row. Who knows what's going to happen with Blake Snell? I saw Chris Paddock back injured again. I mean, their pitching situation. Jake Arrieta's out there trying to pitch for them. Yu Darvish gets lit up. They have no pitching. They've also done so many bullpen games for a while there. They were doing 2 bullpen games in every turn of the starting rotation. Mm-hmm. That's going to fry everybody. So, to me, it comes down to the Reds and the Cardinals. We'll see what happens with the Padres coming to town this weekend, but I would be surprised if San Diego is really in it, let's say, 15 games from now when it's that final week. I could see the Cardinals and the Reds battling for that final spot. So yesterday, you have, what do we call it, the Geezer Bowl, the Geezer game. I say that with love and respect.
Old man baseball.
Old man ball, old man baseball. Adam Wainwright, 40 years old. Rich Hill, 41 years old. Both of them pitched pretty well. Waino much better, but still Rich Hill, 5 innings, 3 earned runs. Adam Wainwright, 6 scoreless innings, only 4 hits allowed, gets the win, improving to 16-7 on the season. Now, before we break down the game, I have to ask Jim, only because, Cam, you were not here for this yesterday, where I threw out a potential narrative. I didn't say it would 100% happen. Okay? Now you're laughing.
You brought it up because I wasn't, but yeah, you're right.
I brought it up about 14 times yesterday.
Yes, you did.
Just in passing.
The Grim Reaper even shot you down twice.
2 times Brooks said, Charlie, shut up, you're wrong. I will say, though, all I was saying was that because I watched Sunday Night Baseball, and it was one of the best baseball games, non-Cardinals, I've watched all season long. It was probably the best. It was emotional. It was Francisco Lindor, 3 bombs. It was Giancarlo Stanton, hits a bomb, stops midway between second and third base, turns around and chirps and tells him to stop talking S. The fans are going crazy. It's the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It was the Subway Series, so it's Yankees-Mets. It's everything with that, with the Mike Piazza home run. You had 2 nationally televised games, Saturday night on Fox, Sunday Night Baseball. There was a lot going on. So I'm not saying this is the reason that the Mets lost this game, but you could see how that game, from an emotional standpoint, it's just not the same. I'm not saying that's the reason why Adam Wainwright shoved and the Cardinals won 7-zip, but hey, you never know.
Dude, you're right. You're
Thank
absolutely
you,
right.
Cam.
Dude, I know. I 100%. It happens all the time. It happens in hockey all the time when you have an emotional game with something that happened previously and you guys go toe-to-toe and it's emotional. Okay, let me give you an example. Maybe a game like Washington and the Rangers, when all that went down, and the next game they all fought and they did this, and maybe the game after that they're in Ottawa. And you're like, oh, okay. Not that St. Louis is Ottawa, or they could be anywhere. And you're just like, okay, we're kind of drained. No, it happens all the time. That's actually a good point. If anybody's chirping you about that, Charlie, you let me know, and then I'll have a word with them, because I agree with you. Jimmy, do you have something to say about that? Because
I thought the narrative was you said they were going to use that momentum and come out and play strong.
Oh, now look what you're doing.
Oh, wait.
Look what you're doing.
No?
I thought that's what you said.
I did not say that.
Oh.
Are you joking me right
Where's
now?
Buck Swope?
Sometimes I forget what I say. I'm not going to lie.
I do it all the
time. We had fun with it.
Do it all the time.
Yeah, I tell you what, it gets back to, I think part of the baseball team with the Cardinals, at least within the last what they did against the Reds in the series, and what they did at the end of the series against the Dodgers. They went out and took care of business. And last night, I don't know what's going to happen tonight, but they just kind of buried the Mets. It was, they got the lead, and it was a close ball game, but they piled on at the end. I mean, that's what, if you're going to put a team down, you finish them. They finished the Mets last night. That's one thing I want to see how it plays out tonight. You saw the faces on the Mets at the end of the game, if you were able to watch a little bit of it on TV, when the Cardinals just piled on at the end. There was a lot of dead-faced looks on them like, wow, that just happened right in front of us, and there's nothing we could do about it.
And by the way, piling on at the end is important, especially for this team. Those aren't runs that don't matter. And I say that because there's a big difference between 3-0 and 7-0 and who you're using in your bullpen. Now, look, yesterday, Alex Reyes, some traffic, a hit, a walk, but strikes out the side. And look, even when Alex Reyes is on this year, there's usually a lot of traffic, okay? He walks a lot of guys. But for him to get through that and strike out the side was a big moment. And then you can use Cody Whitley at the end of the game. You don't have to throw a Gio Gallegos again. You don't have to throw Genesis Cabrera in that game. And we talk about this a lot, where in many of these Adam Wainwright starts, now, even though he pitched really well last night, we were talking more so when Adam Wainwright can go 9, when Adam Wainwright can go 8, and he usually goes at least 7, by the way. But when he does that, that saves 1 or 2 usually, or sometimes all 3 of your elite relievers. That helps you win a game the next day. Now, last night he only went 6, which is fine, because nowadays most pitchers go 5. So Adam Wainwright going 6 is nice, but for him it's actually less than he's usually 7,
right? At
least the last 2 months or so. But the fact that you used Reyes and now you have a fresher Gio Gallegos and Genesis Cabrera. Fast forward to tonight. Here's the one game where, if you look at the pitching probables, it is Marcus Stroman, who's having a nice year, sub-3 ERA, versus Jake Woodford, who has been better of late, but you'd think by looking at just the pitching matchup, the Mets have the advantage, and Jake Woodford is probably not going to go past, 5 innings? Don't you think? I mean, maybe the best outing he has, maybe he could go 6. But my point is, now you have a Genesis Cabrera and a Gio Gallegos. You could potentially go 1 1/3, multiple innings, as you see fit, if Jake Woodford only goes 4 and you need a lot of help from your bullpen.
And I'll throw in Garcia's name in there, because he was set to come into the game, and then they piled on the 4 at the end. Again, to your point, you don't have to use your key guys. You got away without having to do that, the exception of Reyes. McFarland did pitch, but after that, you still got everybody intact for tonight. And I'll say this, I don't necessarily know we're ready to strike up the band and start a parade, but Whitley was really good last night. 3 strikeouts, just bang, 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 get that thing over with. Again, maybe he is a guy that's starting to figure some things out, and you can use him. Let's say if Woodford gets into some trouble or somebody else starts to get in trouble in the 5th inning, maybe he starts to find some things. You go, okay, I got a guy I can trust maybe in the 5th inning. on the very back end of your bullpen, or the front end of your bullpen, I should say.
That's a great point. And thinking about that, Whitley is a pitcher who can move his way into that role, and with each good outing, Mike Schilt gains more and more confidence with him. But a couple guys that we don't talk about enough, and I say that because they haven't been storylines the whole year. The whole year we talked about the law firm, what are we calling them? Enfuego, Latin Heat, right?
Yeah.
Genesis Cabrera, Alex Reyes, Gio Gallegos. We've talked about those three for the entire season. They have been fantastic. Now, lately, unfortunately, you don't have the same confidence when Alex Reyes enters a game. It's great that he was able to get through last night, but at this point in the season, you don't have the same confidence in Alex Reyes as you did, let's say, up until the All-Star break when he's an All-Star. And basically after that, he's really fallen off. And I know Cabrera had a bad month or so, and so did Gio Gallegos. It seems like Gio has righted the ship. Genesis Cabrera had a couple awful outings where it seems like he was tipping pitches specifically versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. But that's a long description to get to my point, which was now you feel, okay, TJ McFarland, Luis Garcia. Who do you have more confidence in right now than Luis Garcia? I mean, honestly, when Luis Garcia goes in the game, I've now slotted him basically temporarily instead of Alex Reyes as my high leverage reliever that I have confidence in right now. And TJ McFarland also. I mean, he has a sub-2 ERA.
They've definitely worked their way up, and that's part of this process of this team getting better. If they weren't good, what was it? McFarland went into last night with 18 straight innings without giving up a run. I mean, without that, well, you know where they're at right now. They're back where behind the Phillies and the Mets right now, but they're not because they had some guys come through. It's really neat to see because we've talked about it all year and all summer, guys. I didn't have a lot of confidence they'd be this close. They're a half game out right now starting today. I didn't think this was possible. Got to give them credit.
I'm wondering, and I also opened this up to the text line, 855-282-8255. When a team makes the playoffs or doesn't, even if it's the second wild card, there's a lot of finality in we're either in or we're not. And I'm wondering from you guys, but also the text line, how much does your narrative or opinion on the 2021 Cardinals change or potentially not? If they, let's say, get the second wild card and maybe they lose to the Dodgers. I don't
Drastically.
know. Okay, but also
for
if
me,
they finish
100%.
Okay, tell us why.
Well, because, man, now it's meaningful. Like, until you have that spot, even with the Blues are the same kind of way, right? Like, when they're not going, Charlie, we do the same damn thing. It's not just the Cardinals. It's anything. Like, if they're – remember they're losing so much. They lost to Phoenix 15 times in a row because they played them 15 times in a row. You know, are they in? Are they not? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And finally they're like, okay, where are we at now? Maybe they got swept and it wasn't entertaining at all. But your mindset changes until if they get that spot and I go in there and they have a chance to beat a monster team with a payroll out the wazoo that everybody's been pumping up and Waino's on the mound, you're like, yeah, like, all right, let's go. Like, I don't care if I chirped you for the past 6 months or not. I am interested in this product. Let's get this thing going.
Jim.
Look, if they get in, I got to give them a lot of credit because I didn't think they were good enough to get in. Yes, other teams fail, but that's part of it. I mean, that's part of what happened in 2006 and 2011. They had to have other teams fail at the end so they could get in, and they did. And I'm not saying this team is going to get in and run the table, but the fact that you get in, you still got to give credit. Now, the frustrating part, and I know people are going to start texting because we hear it all year. Well, now the front office won't make – well, you might be right on that, but that's part of the process as – for the Cardinals to say, we got to get in first.
Right, and that's why I asked the question.
I didn't say I like it. I just said that's what it will be.
And I know that question maybe sounds like a dumb question, but what you mentioned is a reason I mentioned that, and also the fact, like, let's say they either get in or they miss it on the final day. You're probably, let's say, either 6 games over 500 or 5, maybe 7 or 4, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Whatever that number is, you're still not an elite team, right? No. You're not the Dodgers.
Agreed.
And we need to discuss that. But clearly, by the way, of course I want the Cardinals to get in. It'll be fun to watch a playoff baseball game. Yeah. And if it's Wainwright versus Scherzer, of course I want that to happen. But that doesn't mean that the Cardinals don't need to still take care of business and get to a point where you're not fighting for a one-game on-the-road game versus potentially Max Scherzer to get a series. And that's where, to me, it's different, Cam. You mentioned hockey and all that. It is different, even if you're the 8th spot or whatever it is with the NHL these days with the wild card. If you get a series, okay, let's line up. We'll play a 7-game series or a 5-game series in baseball. We got a shot. Getting to this point with the second wild card, you got to win that game to get the series. And that's where I have heard some people, I feel like there's a very, very small minority that actually wants the Cardinals to not make the playoffs. And that might be 2% of the people. But I've seen a couple people here and there that have said, I don't want them to make it because, we have higher expectations. And I get that. You should have higher expectations than the second wild card. But you are where you are right now. This is your only opportunity to make the playoffs this year. You have no chance at this point in the season at the division. It's second wild card or bust. So if you're a Cardinals fan, why wouldn't you want them to get there? And I don't agree with the mindset that, that will make the Cardinals continue to basically say, as long as we're kind of good enough to get in, we'll roll the dice and see what happens. Because I think they've seen Busch Stadium the last couple months, and they've seen that there's not a lot of folks there. The energy is low, and fans have started to get a little bit apathetic about how they've basically been a little bit better than 500 team, let's say the last 5 years, where sometimes you make the playoffs, sometimes you don't during the final week, but they're not in that elite class that they were 2011 to 2015. And a lot of folks want them to get back there, and I think a percentage of the fact that fans were not coming out this year to Busch Stadium is part of that. And I think that management and Bill DeWitt heard that and saw that.
I hope you're right. I think you're right. I mean, there's no doubt. Look, all you got to do is watch television, look around in the background going, there's nobody at these games right now. Nobody's showing up. Another point about this year's team, they're going to have to supplement the roster anyway because there's a lot of guys that just aren't going to be back because their contracts are up. One of them will be Carpenter, and I know a lot of fans are jumping and yelling and screaming, yeah, I get that. But two guys we just got done talking about being key parts of this run, McFarland and Garcia, they're free agents.
Bring them back.
You got to bring them back, or you got to find another way. Andrew Miller's going to be gone. There's a lot of roster spots that will be opening up because of movement. So they should be able to. Well, they should be able to. I don't know if they will, but they better supplement as far as I'm concerned. I'm not using what we just talked about as an excuse to say, see, everything's fine. No, it's not fine. You got to go find a better production out of shortstop. You got to figure out another bat because the DH is coming, and you better be a productive bat. Because not only does it help the Cardinals, like, for instance, we'll say, we get this guy. He'll be the DH for the Cardinals. Great, but every team in the National League is going to have a DH too. So if you don't upgrade, you're going to be behind the 8 ball before you even start.
And you mentioned the salaries. Now, we all know, we've talked about it for a long time, Dexter Fowler off the books, Matt Carpenter off the books. Remember, though, Nolan Arenado, who you have to pay moving forward after this year, that basically takes care of those two. I mean, pretty much. We're talking about 30-ish million and 34-ish million. So it's, relatively speaking, a wash. So it's not like you have, $70 million to spend. But if you start to do the math, okay, Carlos Martinez, what was he making? 18-ish, whatever it was. Okay, Andrew Miller. You're bringing back Yachty, obviously. We all think Waino is coming back. I mean, he's going to play, so it's going to be here. But so what do you have? Do you have 30-ish, 35 million? I would think that the Cardinals, they need to have another splash, and the spot that makes sense is shortstop. I'm fine with them rolling with the outfield, with the young outfield, and that's not me saying that Harrison Bader is the center fielder of the future. I would like a left-handed bat that you can platoon out there and rotate. But shortstop, right, and preferably a left-handed hitter, because then you could go 2 lefties or 3 righties with a switch hitter, depending on matchups next year. If you have Carlson, O'Neill, Bader, and that lefty, the Jock Peterson type. Doesn't have to be him, but somebody of that ilk. And then you have the one spot on the infield where there's a great market, there's a ton of shortstops, and Corey Seager is the one to me that just just screams that it's a perfect fit. Again, you need more lefty bats. He's that. I don't think he's going to be as big of a price tag. It's going to be big. It's going to be big. Now, I think you'll get a little bit of a discount because of his injury history. And maybe for him even a shorter term deal if he wants to bet on himself. I don't think that's going to be an 8-year deal is what I'm trying to say. But it's going to be a lot. It's going to be $20+ million per year.
Shortstop, there's a lot of them out there. I don't have a feel for which is the best fit. Now, you bring up Seager, and if you said he's the guy, I go, thank you. I'm not complaining. I still think with the ties with Nolan that Trevor Story's a guy that Nolan's going to push for. I just think that when you try to connect dots, I think that's just going to be a huge connection right there that Nolan will go to the front office and go, hey, this is my guy. We played together on the left side of the infield for years. He wants to come here. I want him here. Let's make that happen. There's injury concerns with him a little bit. So we'll just have to wait and see. But they better not use again, the storyline of, well, we got in. We're fine. No, you're not. You're not elite. You skated in. That's not good enough.
That's why I do think it's funny. And I follow Twitter a lot, and I follow all of our local reporters and whatnot. I always find it funny. If anybody says just anything about baseball, it's not enough. And just because a move isn't Corey Seager or it's not for a $25 million player doesn't mean it's not the right move. And I was, Ben Fred, love Ben Fred. He was tweeting about the potential to bring back a John Lester. I believe he wrote an article about it. And so people are, that's the worst thing ever. John Lester, he's 40 years old. And it's like, folks, that's not the only move. Okay, we get that. If the only thing you do in the offseason is bring back John Lester, they will picket Busch Stadium with pitchforks. Okay? But you still, hey, we learned this year, you can never have too many starting pitchers. And if it's an old veteran on a 1-year deal that's pretty manageable with all the injuries this year, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Miles Michaelis? Who knows how Dakota Hudson is going to come back? Adam Wainwright is not getting any younger, even though he's been fantastic. You're now worried a little bit more about Jack Flaherty. Again, a John Lester type, you can always use a pitcher like that on your roster. You'll find a way to have him be your 5th starter, your 6th starter. If there's an injury, somebody else can be in the bullpen. It's just funny to me if you mention T.J. McFarland, if you mention Luis Garcia. Oh, really? Well, no. They have to do more than that. They need a Corey Seager type, but they also have to address the bullpen.
I would say you need another closer individual type player, especially if you think Reyes is going to be a starter next year.
And Jordan Hicks is another huge question mark.
Giant. I don't know if he'll ever pitch again. I mean, you go, oh, come on. Think about this. It's 2 years removed since he's done anything of significance. You can't count on him for anything. Anything you see from him in spring training, you go, oh, this is a bonus because I can't count on him for anything at this point.
Yeah, you are at a point with him, with a guy who throws so hard with multiple injuries, that it's certainly fair to wonder if he'll ever be back close to the performance that he put out there when he was really, really good. Now, if he's healthy, will they roll him out there and give him a shot? But you do have to wonder because, unfortunately, we've seen with a lot of pitchers that throw really, really hard that the shelf life for those guys sometimes is not very long whatsoever. The guy I watched in Michigan was Joel Zumaya. I mean, Joel Zumaya was a phenomenon for a year or two, and then it was kind of like there was nothing after that.
Yep. And you can never have enough good dudes, no matter what sport it is. I mean, we're fine. Look at all the teams right now that are that are leading the division in the National League. The Giants, you've got, I'll say the Dodgers, even though they're not leading the division, and Milwaukee. They have so many moving parts. You can never have enough because you're going to find. Ask the San Diego Padres. They got injuries. They don't have enough of anything right now. And they've made all the moves in the offseason. You never have enough.
Earlier today, St. Louis Lawn Care came by my house, did a great job on my yard. STLLawnCare.com for your lawn mowing, for your treatment year-round. Get that grass looking beautiful. My guy Tim Jankerson also has STL equipment if you want to buy a lawnmower or get your mower repaired. STLMowerRepair.com. And then just launched this past spring, already doing really well, is LawnCube.com. Fully customized lawn care delivered. You start with a soil test and a design plan for you out there, the customer, and it's a monthly subscription service for do-it-yourself lawn care. Just launched, already doing fantastic. Nothing as in-depth is out there as lawncube.com. Cam, anything on your end? Sure.
You got a Bo Weevil of Bevo Mill chimes in and goes, I'm all in for the Cardinals getting a shot at the second wild card game. Then I know it's a win. We can continue. If not, we go home. However, I would hope Waino will get that start for the first wild card game. What team in MLB wants to face Wainwright right now? Question mark. My wife and I would go patronize a bar with friends and root on the Birds.
100%.
There you go.
The one thing is, I know they've shifted the rotation, but the Cardinals, you would think, whoever wins the second wild card, Cardinals or Reds, you're probably not going to be able to set up your rotation perfectly to get your ace to throw in the wild card game. Because the way things are going right now, I don't think anybody's going to clinch that second wild card until at least the final series of the season. And it might be on game 162, and hell, it could be
163.
It could be 163 that they need to get to the actual wild card game.
Yeah, there's a lot to be determined in a very short period of time, but you can't really bank on anything at this point. You got to win it first.